Today we got the oddball, the Honda Crosstour. Fire it up, customer states we get some tapping noises. Can't confirm on that. Usual suspect, a timing tensioner. Look at that belt, it's got more cracks in it than the Grand Canyon. So that's what we're up to today. We're going to do a timing belt kit. Always go with the OEM style kit. The Asian kits are basically OEM, Honda and Toyota and a couple other manufacturers. So let's get our engine support top bar so it doesn't fall down, and we gotta hold it up because we gotta take this motor mount out. Now there's one bolt on top for a little wiring harness grounding wire. There's two bolts on the top of the mount itself. There's one, and then the other one is right behind it. And then there's two bolts on the sides of the rubber mount where it goes to the frame rail. There's one here, and then there's one on the back side of that. It's kind of hard to see because of that ABS module. It's kind of in the way, but needless to say, you can still get to it with an extension. That out of the way, and then there you go. There's your mount removed, and everything's nice and supported by that cross member bar. Very helpful. Now lean on that tensioner there, push that belt out of the way, slide it off the pulleys and get her out. There we go. So this is the backside timing cover. There's 5 bolts in it. If you need to, pause it. There's a wire that goes across it, a loom, and just push it on the other side of it. So now we're going to work from the wheel well, try and get this crank pulley bolt off. And yeah, not going to happen. So grab your holding tool and then jam that bar in there. Then use a jack handle is what I use for extra extension for more leverage. I do want to end up eventually trying to buy that weighted socket. I guess they make a special Honda weighted socket that's really thick wall. Then you can get it out with the impact. So, but I'd like to give that a try. So here, and then we'll wiggle it top and bottom. Just push back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's fairly easy, but just work it off. So side to side to side, and then it'll work its way off. I've always been able to take them off by hand and not needed a puller. But behind that is your timing cover bolts. Pull those out, and then you're going to want to slide that towards you. It's a little bit tight. Watch out for that sensor, and just squeeze it past you. And here we go. Let's get a view in here. Oh yeah, that tensioner has 100% failed. You can see the fluid line on the bottom of it where it's been leaking. So we got to get this pressure sensor out of the way. I do not like using this crescent wrench, but it's the only tool that I had at the moment that was easy accessible to spin that pressure sensor right out of there. Once you get that out of the way, then you can access the 2 bolts that go to that tensioner. Get those out of the way. Make sure it's at top dead center beforehand, but then work that tensioner off of there. Look at that thing. Man, that's nasty. That thing has definitely failed. So work your way around each pulley, just starting nice and slow. There is some tension against the cam gears a little bit, so try not to try and spin them at all. I just slowly work my way around without moving them or pulling on them. You don't want one of those cams to move a centimeter at all while nothing else is moving. So be careful while you're doing that. Then here we're going to work the tensioner pulley bolt off. These things always seem like they're over tightened, but I think it's just from years and years. You only do these belts every, 80,000 miles or so. So here we're working on the water pump. There we go. I like to crack it so I can get it to bleed. That makes it easier to catch in a bucket when it only comes out so much versus when it drains a ton at a time. It sure is a pretty blue color. That Honda coolant is definitely beautiful color. I'll use the old paper towel and wipe off that old residue with the O-ring. And then let's slide our new pump in here. These do have 2 dowel pins. You see that little tiny hole next to my pinky there? That is one of the dowel pins and the other one's on the top side. It kind of holds that pump in there so you're able to grab the bolts and know it's all lined up and that O-ring's not slipping against itself or not, sitting in the proper location. Here's our front timing gear with our lines lined up. This is the backside one. It's hard to see because the strut tower is right up against it basically, so it's hard to get the camera in there, but you can see it. And then you can see the crank pulley bolt lined up with that arrow still. So we're in good shape. So we got our tensioners and pulleys and everything all put back on. We're going to start working on that engine mount. This is the lower half of the engine mount that bolts to the block itself. Then the other part of the engine mount is what bolts to this. So, got to put this on first because if you see that little ridge, the covers is what meets up against it from the outside. So this goes on first. Get that thing worked on there. Then make sure you put your pressure sensor back in. Again, I hate using these crescent wrenches, but this is definitely all I had accessible at the moment without searching for tools. Make sure it's plugged in. Then be sure to grab your gear cover, dust cover, whatever you want to call that. Make sure that goes on first. Then slide your bottom timing cover back on there. Scrounge up all your hardware and throw all about 7 or so bolts back in that thing. And I did skip and I didn't do the crank pulley bolt, but make sure you torque that thing. It needs to be super tight. Here I'm leaning on the tensioner and threw the belt back on. And then there we go with the backside timing cover. Snaking it over the top like that was about the only way I could get it in there and out without a reasonable amount of fight. It's super tight to that strut tower, so once we get that done, we'll put that engine mount back on. Do not forget that ground wire. That's what that small little bolt is. It's right by my hand. Work all the engine mount bolts on by hand first before you tighten them down. Sometimes it gets to that last one and it doesn't want to thread in. Holy Toledo, that was just in time. So let's get our engine hoist or engine mount, whatever you want to call it, engine support, I don't know. This is an awesome tool. It just goes strut tower, and then just sits across there and J-hooks onto anything you can get a hold of that's sturdy. Holds the engine up. Man, I love this tool. We got the coolant funnel on here, the bleeder. We're going to pour up that beautiful blue coolant. I think Subaru and Honda, a couple other brands all use that same kind of blue coolant. So that's what we're pouring in there today. Then we're going to put the battery back on and kind of cross our fingers. Not really. As long as you line up all your timing marks and check them 3-4 times, rotate the engine a few times, and your lines line right back up, you shouldn't have any issues. So here she is fired up. No cam codes, no timing codes, no issues like that. No tapping, no anything. So she's doing pretty good. I'm going to let it sit here and just bleed and bleed and bleed. Make sure you get all the air out of the system. I do appreciate those who made it this far in the video. Watching the full video definitely helps. So even if you're bored, just maybe set it to the side. Just let it play. I won't complain. But here we're going to bleed a little bit out. And then we got a little odds and ends. I think we got to throw the... Yep. Here we go. Here we got to throw the tire back on. Make sure it's torculated. And then, yeah, out the door it goes. Like, comment, subscribe.